Have you ever looked at the world, at the smoke and fire of injustice, and just screamed, "Where is God?" You're not alone. I want to tell you a story. It's about a man, let's call him Elias, who found himself standing in the ruins of what he once called home. Everything was gone not by a natural disaster, but by the deliberate cruelty of others. As he stood there, covered in ash, a single question echoed in the emptiness. If there is a good and powerful God, why does this happen? This isn't just Elias's story, is it? It's the question that haunts so many of us when we see suffering, when we experience loss, when the headlines are filled with horror. We're told about a God of love, a God of justice, but the world we see often feels like a direct contradiction to that. It's easy to feel abandoned, to let bitterness take root. It's a crisis of faith that feels almost impossible to overcome. We pray, we hope, we try to be good, and yet the innocent suffer and the wicked seem to prosper. Elias walked for days, the question burning in his mind. He saw others who had lost everything, their faces etched with the same despair he felt. He saw children who were hungry and families torn apart. Each new sight was another piece of evidence against the existence of a caring deity. He grew angry. "Is this a test?" he shouted at the empty sky. "Is this some kind of divine plan? Because from down here it just looks like chaos and cruelty." The silence that answered him was deafening. He met an old woman sharing her last piece of bread with a stranger. He saw a young man pulling people from a collapsed building, risking his own life. He saw a group of strangers huddled together, sharing stories and tears, finding comfort in their shared humanity. In each of these moments he saw something flicker. It wasn't a divine intervention from the clouds. It was something human. It was compassion. It was courage. It was love in the face of absolute desolation. And slowly, a new thought began to form in Elias's mind. What if he was asking the wrong question? What if the question wasn't, "Where is God?" but "Where is the good?" He realized that in the midst of all the destruction, goodness hadn't been extinguished. It was right there, in the hands of the woman sharing her bread, in the heart of the young man risking his life, in the comforting words of strangers. Maybe the divine isn't about preventing the fire, but about what we choose to do in the smoke. It's in the choice to be kind when the world is cruel. It's in the choice to build when others destroy. It's in the choice to love in a world that seems filled with hate. The answer to Elias's question wasn't in the sky. It was in the people around him, and ultimately it was inside himself. He could be the answer for someone else. He could offer a hand, a word of comfort, a moment of grace. The fire and smoke of injustice will always be a part of our world, a painful and undeniable reality. But so will the response. The question, "Where is God?" is one of the most human questions we can ask. And perhaps the most divine answer is found in our own actions. It's found when we decide not to be bystanders to the suffering, but to be the hands and feet of compassion in a world that desperately needs it. What we do in the face of injustice is our answer. So the next time you see the smoke rising, ask yourself, not "Where is God?" but "Where can I be the good?" Thank you so much for watching and thinking through this with me. If this resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more conversations like this. See you in the next one. Have you ever felt like God isn't listening? Like you're crying out, but all you hear is silence? You're not alone. In fact, one of the Bible's own prophets felt the exact same way. His name was Habakkuk, and his story is one of the most relatable and powerful in all of Scripture. Let's travel back in time to ancient Judah, around the 7th century BC. It was a dark and difficult period. The nation had turned its back on God, injustice was rampant, violence filled the streets, and the poor and righteous were being crushed by the wicked and powerful. Watching all this unfold was the prophet Habakkuk, but unlike other prophets who simply declared God's word, Habakkuk did something radical. He questioned God. He went to God not with a declaration, but with a complaint. In his frustration and anguish, he prayed, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen? Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing? The wicked hem in the righteous, so that justice is perverted." Habakkuk was essentially asking, "God, where are you? Why aren't you doing something about all this evil?" That's a question many of us have asked in our own lives when we see suffering and injustice in the world. Then God answered. But his answer was not what Habakkuk expected. God revealed a terrifying plan. He told Habakkuk, "Look at the nations and watch and be utterly amazed. For I am going to do something in your days that you would not believe, even if you were told. I am raising up the Babylonians, that ruthless and impetuous people, who sweep across the whole earth to seize dwellings not their own." The Babylonians, also known as the Chaldeans, were the rising superpower of the ancient world, known for their cruelty and unstoppable military might. God was going to use this fierce, pagan nation as his instrument of judgment to punish Judah for its sins. This answer left Habakkuk completely stunned. It didn't make sense. How could a holy and just God use a nation even more wicked than Judah to carry out his justice? It seemed like replacing one problem with a much, much bigger one. So Habakkuk went back to God with a second complaint. He climbed up to his watchtower, determined to wait for God's response. He argued, "Your eyes are too pure to look on evil. You cannot tolerate wrongdoing. Why then do you tolerate the treacherous? Why are you silent while the wicked swallow up those more righteous than themselves?" He was grappling with a profound theological problem, the justice of God. If God is good, why does he allow evil to prosper? And why would he use a greater evil to punish a lesser one? God's second answer is one of the most famous and pivotal passages in the Bible. First, he assured Habakkuk that the Babylonians' pride and violence would not go unpunished. Their arrogance would be their own downfall. They too would face judgment in due time. God is sovereign over all nations, not just his chosen people. But then, God gave Habakkuk a timeless principle to hold on to in the midst of the chaos. He said, "Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets, for the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. But the righteous will live by his faith. The righteous will live by his faith." This is the heart of the message. In a world that doesn't make sense, where God's plans are confusing and frightening, the path forward for the righteous is not through complete understanding, but through steadfast faith. It means trusting in God's character, his goodness, and his ultimate sovereignty, even when his actions are incomprehensible. This single verse would echo through history, becoming a cornerstone of Christian theology for figures like the Apostle Paul and Martin Luther, shaping the very concept of salvation by faith. The book of Habakkuk doesn't end with all the answers, but it ends with a transformed prophet. Habakkuk's final chapter is not a complaint, but a beautiful prayer of faith. He has moved from doubt to trust, from fear to worship. He now understands that God's ways are higher than his ways. Even knowing the destruction that was coming, that the Babylonian invasion would strip the land bare and bring immense hardship, Habakkuk declared his unwavering trust in God. He wrote, "Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength." Habakkuk's journey teaches us that it's okay to have questions and doubts. It's okay to bring our frustrations and confusion to God, but it also shows us that true faith isn't about having all the answers. It's about choosing to trust God, to find our joy and strength in Him, no matter what our circumstances look like. It's about learning to say, "Even if, yet I will." Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please give this video a like and subscribe for more content that dives deep into the timeless stories of the Bible. See you next time. The story of Judah's end is not simply one of conquest, but of a kingdom rotting from within. For generations, the heart of the nation was poisoned, its spirit weakened, making it ripe for judgment. The decay began in earnest with King Manasseh, whose long and wicked reign plunged Judah into its darkest spiritual abyss. He rebuilt the high places his father had destroyed, erected altars to foreign gods within the Lord's own temple, and filled Jerusalem with innocent blood. The nation never truly recovered from the depravity he normalized. A flicker of light pierced the gloom with the coming of King Josiah. A righteous ruler, his discovery of the lost book of the law sparked a great revival. He tore down the idols, cleansed the temple, and renewed the covenant. For a moment it seemed Judah might be saved. But the repentance was shallow, the change only skin deep. The rot had set in too deep, and the nation's heart quickly returned to its corrupt ways after Josiah's death. The end came not from within, but from the east. The Babylonian Empire, under the brilliant and ruthless King Nebuchadnezzar, was on the march. In 597 BCE, he besieged Jerusalem for the first time, capturing the king and exiling the nation's elite, the craftsmen, the officers, the powerful. He installed a puppet, Zedekiah, as the new king. Yet even in this weakened state, Zedekiah chose defiance. He rebelled, forging an ill-fated alliance with Egypt. Nebuchadnezzar's response was final and absolute. In 587 BCE, he returned to Jerusalem, but this time there would be no mercy. His army surrounded the city, starving its people into submission. The walls were breached, the city was conquered, and the unthinkable happened. Solomon's temple, the very house of God, was looted and burned to the ground. King Zedekiah was captured, forced to watch his own sons executed before his eyes were put out. The people of Judah were carried away in chains to Babylon, their kingdom a ruin, their capital a smoking heap of rubble. The city had fallen not just to a foreign power, but to its own internal decay. How long, O Lord, will I call for help, and you will not hear? I cry out to you, violence, yet you do not save. Why do you make me see iniquity, and cause me to look on wickedness? For plundering and violence are before me. Strife exists and contention arises. Therefore the law is paralyzed, and justice never goes forth, for the wicked surround the righteous. Therefore justice goes forth perverted. The Israelites, freed from slavery in Egypt, found themselves trapped between the pursuing Egyptian army and the vast Red Sea. Fear gripped their hearts. But Moses, their leader, stood firm. He raised his staff, and a mighty east wind began to blow. All night it howled, pushing the waters of the Red Sea apart, creating a dry path through the heart of the sea. The Israelites watched in awe as two towering walls of water formed on either side. Under the cover of darkness, the Israelites began their exodus, a nation on the move. Men, women, children, and livestock walked on the dry seabed, the walls of water a testament to the miracle unfolding. As dawn broke, the Egyptian army, led by a determined Pharaoh, charged into the same path, confident of their victory. But their pursuit was short-lived. As the last Israelite reached the opposite shore, Moses once again stretched out his hand over the sea. The walls of water crashed down, engulfing the Egyptian army in a watery grave. The Israelites were safe, their freedom secured by a divine act of deliverance. They celebrated with songs of praise, their journey to the Promised Land just beginning. After centuries of slavery, the Israelites fled Egypt, led by Moses, but Pharaoh's heart hardened. He gathered his army, his finest chariots, and pursued them to the shores of the Red Sea, trapped. With the sea before them and the Egyptian army behind, the Israelites were filled with terror. They cried out to Moses, "Was it to die in the wilderness that you brought us out of Egypt?" Moses, his faith unwavering, told the people, "Do not be afraid. Stand firm and see the salvation of the Lord." He raised his staff over the water as God commanded. All through the night, a powerful east wind blew, parting the sea and turning the seabed into dry land. The waters stood like a wall on their right and on their left. The Israelites walked through the sea on dry ground, making their way to the other side. As morning dawned, the Egyptian army charged after them, into the very path that had been made. Once the last Israelite was safely across, God commanded Moses to stretch out his hand over the sea once more. The walls of water collapsed, and the Red Sea returned to its full force, swallowing Pharaoh's entire army. Not one of them survived. On that day, the Israelites saw the great power of the Lord, and they put their trust in him and in his servant Moses.
In a time of great turmoil and injustice, the prophet Habakkuk cried out to God, "O Lord, how long shall I cry for help, and you will not hear? Or cry to you violence, and you will not save?" He saw wickedness and strife all around him, and his heart was burdened. God answered, but the reply troubled the prophet deeply. The Lord declared he was raising up the Babylonians, a ruthless and impetuous nation, to execute judgment upon his own people for their sins. Confused and distressed, Habakkuk questioned God again. "How can you, who are of purer eyes than to see evil, Look on the treacherous and remain silent when the wicked swallows up the man more righteous than he. He could not understand how a holy God could use such an unholy instrument. Seeking an answer, Habakkuk resolved to stand his ground. I will take my stand at my watchpost and station myself on the tower, and look out to see what he will say to me. There, in solitude and patience, he waited for the divine revelation. Then the Lord answered him and said, "Write the vision, make it plain on tablets, so he may run who reads it. For still the vision awaits its appointed time. It hastens to the end, it will not lie. If it seems slow, wait for it. It will surely come, it will not delay. Behold, his soul is puffed up. It is not upright within him, but the righteous shall live by his faith." Habakkuk learned that in the face of confusion and delay, true faith is found in waiting on God's unfailing promises.
Have you ever felt like you're shouting into a void? Like your prayers, your hopes, your deepest cries for help just echo back unanswered? You're not alone. The prophet Habakkuk knew this feeling all too well. He stood on his watchtower, looking out over a world that seemed to be crumbling, a world filled with injustice and violence, and he cried out to God, "How long, O Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" It's a question that resonates deep within our own souls, doesn't it? How long must I endure this pain? How long will I be stuck in this situation? When will the breakthrough finally come? We live in a world that demands instant results. Instant coffee, instant communication, instant gratification. We've been conditioned to expect quick fixes and immediate answers. So, when God's timing doesn't align with our own, it's easy to feel frustrated, forgotten, or even abandoned. But here's where Habakkuk's story offers us a profound lesson. After pouring out his heart, his confusion, and his complaints, he does something remarkable. He says, "I will stand at my watch and station myself on the ramparts. I will look to see what he will say to me and what answer I am to give to this complaint." He doesn't just walk away in a huff. He doesn't give up. He positions himself to wait and to listen. He climbs his watchtower. Imagine that for a moment. A solitary figure silhouetted against the sky, standing on a high wall. The world below is chaotic and loud, full of strife and uncertainty. But up there, on the tower, there's a different perspective. Up there, he's intentionally creating space for God to speak. The watchtower isn't just a physical place. It's a posture of the heart. It is a conscious decision to rise above the noise and chaos of our circumstances and to fix our gaze on God. It's a declaration of faith that says, "I don't understand what's happening. I can't see the way forward, but I trust that you are still in control, and I will wait for you." Waiting is one of the hardest things we are called to do. It's not passive. It's an active spiritual discipline. It's the space between the prayer and the answer, the promise and its fulfillment. And in that space, our faith is forged. It's where we learn that God's silence is not his absence. It's where we learn to trust his character even when we can't trace his hand. God's answer to Habakkuk eventually comes. It's not what he expected, and it's not on his timeline. God says, "Write down the revelation and make it plain on tablets so that a herald may run with it." For the revelation awaits an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay. God's promises have an appointed time. They are not subject to our impatience or our deadlines. Our job is not to figure out the when and the how. Our job is to be like the watchman on the tower, to stand firm, to keep watch, and to hold on to the truth that what God has promised, he will surely bring to pass. The waiting season is not a wasted season. It's a season of preparation, of strengthening, of learning to depend not on our own understanding, but on the unfailing faithfulness of God. So if you find yourself in a season of waiting today, be encouraged. Don't mistake God's patience for his indifference. Climb your spiritual watchtower. Quiet your heart amidst the noise. Open your soul to listen. The answer is coming. The dawn will break. He is faithful, and though it may seem to linger, his promise will not be late. It will arrive at its perfectly appointed time. Thank you so much for watching. If this message resonated with you, please consider liking and subscribing for more content like this. Remember, you are not alone in the waiting. Have you ever felt like you were in an impossible situation, surrounded by threats with no way out? Well, today we re-diving into an incredible story about a man who faced exactly that, literally thrown into a den of hungry lions. This is the story of Daniel, a tale of unshakable faith and miraculous rescue that has inspired people for thousands of years. So grab a seat and let's journey back to ancient Babylon. Our story begins in the mighty Babylonian Empire ruled by King Darius. In his court was a man named Daniel. Now, Daniel wasn't just anyone. He was brilliant, wise, and incredibly dedicated. The king recognized his exceptional qualities and planned to put him in charge of the entire kingdom. As you can imagine, this didn't sit well with the other high officials and satraps. They were consumed by jealousy. They thought, who is this guy getting all the king's favor? These jealous officials desperately wanted to find some fault in Daniel to get him fired, or worse. They watched his every move, scrutinized his work, and tried to catch him in a mistake. But they couldn't find a single thing. Daniel was honest, hardworking, and completely blameless in his duties. Frustrated, they realized there was only one way to trap him. They knew Daniel was deeply devoted to his God. He prayed 3 times a day, every single day, without fail. So they hatched a wicked plan. They went to King Darius with a flattering proposal. "Oh, King Darius, live forever," they said. "We've all agreed that you should make a new law. For the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or human other than you, O king, shall be thrown into the den of lions." The king, likely caught up in the flattery and not realizing their true motive, thought it was a great idea to unify the kingdom under his authority. He signed the decree, and under Persian law, an order signed by the king could not be changed. The trap was set. Now, what do you think Daniel did when he heard about this new law? Did he hide? Did he stop praying to save his own skin? Absolutely not. Just as he had always done, Daniel went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. He got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God 3 times that day. He chose obedience to God over his own safety. He knew the risks, but his faith was more important than his life. Of course, the conspirators were watching. As soon as they saw Daniel praying, they rushed back to the king. "Didn't you sign a decree," they asked, "that for 30 days anyone who prays to another god or man besides you will be thrown to the lions?" The king confirmed it. Then they dropped their bombshell. "Daniel, one of the exiles from Judah, is ignoring you and your decree. He's still praying to his God 3 times a day." When the king heard this, his heart sank. He was deeply distressed. He realized he'd been tricked, and he genuinely cared for Daniel. He spent the rest of the day trying to find a legal loophole, any way to save his trusted advisor. But his efforts were in vain. The law was unbreakable. As evening fell, the officials pressed him, reminding him of his own decree. With a heavy heart, the king gave the order. Daniel was brought and thrown into the den of lions. As they were about to seal the entrance with a large stone, the king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." The king then returned to his palace, a miserable man. He couldn't eat, refused any entertainment, and couldn't sleep a wink all night. He was tormented by the thought of what was happening to Daniel in that dark pit. At the first light of dawn, the king rushed to the lion's den. He called out in an anguished voice, "Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you serve so continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" Imagine the silence, the tension of that moment. Then a voice called back from the den. It was Daniel. "O king, live forever." He said, "My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, O king." The king was overjoyed. He ordered them to lift Daniel out of the den immediately. And when Daniel was brought out, there wasn't a single scratch on him. Not one. Why? Because he had trusted in his God. The story doesn't end there, though. King Darius, furious at the men who had maliciously accused Daniel, had them and their families thrown into the very same lion's den. And before they even reached the floor, the lions overpowered them. After this incredible event, King Darius sent a new decree to all the nations and peoples of every language in his kingdom. It said that everyone must fear and revere the God of Daniel. "For he is the living God," the king wrote, "and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed, his dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. Daniel's story is a powerful reminder that even when we face our own lioness dens, whether it as peer pressure, fear, or seemingly impossible challenges, faith and integrity can lead to incredible outcomes. It teaches us about the power of standing firm in our beliefs, even when it's difficult. It's a testament to a faith that doesn't waver in the face of fear. What did you think of this amazing story? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video and want to explore more timeless stories of courage and faith, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Have you ever wondered what happens when a powerful empire, seemingly invincible, pushes its luck too far? Let's travel back in time to ancient Babylon, a city of gold and glory, but also a city on the brink of a prophesied collapse. The prophet Habakkuk warned them, pronouncing 5 specific woes, 5 divine judgments against their actions. Today, we were going to explore these 5 warnings that led to the downfall of one of history's greatest superpowers. First, Habakkuk declared woe to him who builds his house by unjust gain. Imagine the scene: wealthy Babylonian merchants, their coffers overflowing with gold, laughing as they pile up treasures. But where did this wealth come from? It was built on the backs of the oppressed, from lands plundered and people enslaved. They built magnificent palaces, but the foundations were rotten with greed. They thought their riches would protect them, placing their nest on high to be safe from harm. But the very stones of their walls and the beams of their houses cried out against them. This pursuit of wealth at any cost was the first crack in Babylon's mighty foundation. Next came the woe of violence. Woe to him who builds a town with bloodshed and establishes a city by iniquity. The Babylonian army was the terror of the ancient world. They were a war machine, conquering city after city, leaving trails of destruction and sorrow. Their victory parades were grand, but they were celebrating cruelty and celebrating the slaughter of innocents. They believed their military might made them untouchable, that their power was absolute. But the prophet warned that a kingdom built on violence is a kingdom built on sand. The bloodshed they spilled would eventually come back to haunt them, and the violence they inflicted upon others would be visited upon their own city. The third woe was a direct shot at their pride, the woe of arrogance. Woe to him who gives his neighbors drink, pouring it from the wineskin till they are drunk, so that he may gaze on their nakedness. This isn't just about a wild party. It's a metaphor for Babylon's cruel and manipulative foreign policy. They would weaken neighboring nations, metaphorically getting them drunk on false promises or overwhelming them with force, only to exploit and humiliate them. They reveled in the downfall of others, enjoying their power to shame and control. But this prideful act of exposing others' weaknesses would lead to their own shame being exposed for all the world to see. The glory they stole would be replaced by disgrace. This leads us to the fourth woe, the woe of debauchery and utter disrespect. This was a deeper spiritual decay. The arrogance we just talked about wasn't just political. It was personal. It was a culture of excess, of wild parties, and a complete loss of moral compass. Picture lavish feasts where the powerful indulged every whim, their hearts growing hard and cold. They felt they were above consequences, that their status and power gave them a license to do whatever they pleased. This wasn't just having a good time. It was a symptom of a society that had forgotten humility, empathy, and righteousness. This moral bankruptcy was hollowing out the empire from the inside, making it an empty shell ready to crumble. Finally, the fifth woe, the woe of idolatry. Woe to him who says to wood, "Come to life," or to lifeless stone, "Wake up." The Babylonians were famous for their magnificent idols, statues of gold and silver, intricately carved and worshipped in grand temples. They bowed down to gods their own hands had made, lifeless statues that could not speak, see, or save. They poured their resources and their devotion into these false deities, ignoring the one true God who was trying to warn them through his prophet. They trusted in metal and stone instead of in righteousness and justice. This final woe sealed their fate. They had replaced the divine with the man-made, and in doing so, they had chosen a path that led only to destruction. And so, just as Habakkuk foretold, the mighty empire of Babylon fell. The Medes and the Persians breached its supposedly impenetrable walls, and the city of gold became a ruin. The woes pronounced upon them were not just angry words. They were the natural consequences of their own choices, their greed, their violence, their arrogance, their debauchery, and their idolatry. It's a powerful lesson from history, reminding us that true strength is found not in wealth or military power, but in justice, humility, and righteousness. The story of Babylon's fall echoes through the ages, a timeless warning for all to hear. Thanks for watching, and if you found this journey into the past insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from history. Have you ever faced a choice so tough it felt like your life was on the line? A choice between what's easy and what's right? Today, we're diving into an ancient story of incredible courage. A story about three young men who stared death in the face and didn't even flinch. Picture this: the vast plains of ancient Babylon. The mighty king Nebuchadnezzar, a ruler whose word is law, has just erected a colossal golden statue soaring 90 feet into the sky. It's a monument to his own power, and he wants everyone to acknowledge it. He issues a decree across the entire empire. When the music plays, the horns, the pipes, the lyres, all of it, every single person must fall down and worship this golden image. And the penalty for disobedience? It's terrifying. Anyone who refuses will be thrown immediately into a blazing, fiery furnace. Now imagine the scene. The orchestra strikes up, a grand and powerful sound rolling across the plain. Thousands of people from every nation drop to their knees in unison. Governors, judges, officials, citizens, everyone bows. Everyone, that is, except for three men. Their names are Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They are young Hebrew officials appointed by the king himself, known for their wisdom and integrity, but they serve a higher authority. They worship the one true God, and they will not bow to an idol, not even under the threat of a gruesome death. Word quickly reaches the king. Some of his officials, likely jealous of the three Hebrews' positions, eagerly report their defiance. Nebuchadnezzar is furious. How dare they disobey him? He summons them to his court. The air is thick with tension. The king, his face a mask of rage, gives them one last chance. "Is it true," he thunders, "that you will not serve my gods or worship the golden image I have set up? If you bow when the music plays next, all will be forgiven. But if you do not, you will be cast into the furnace. And what God will be able to rescue you from my hand?" Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego stand before the most powerful man in the world, and their response is calm, firm, and filled with unshakable faith. "Oh, Nebuchadnezzar," they say, "we do not need to defend ourselves before you. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve is able to deliver us from it, and he will rescue us from your hand. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the golden image." This answer sends Nebuchadnezzar into an uncontrollable rage. His face contorts with fury. He screams at his guards to heat the furnace 7 times hotter than usual. The flames leap so high and the heat is so intense that the very soldiers who tie up Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego are killed by it as they approach the opening. The three men, fully clothed and bound, are thrown into the heart of the inferno. To everyone watching, it's a certain death sentence. But then something miraculous happens. King Nebuchadnezzar leaps to his feet, his eyes wide with disbelief and terror. He turns to his advisors, his voice trembling. "Weren't there 3 men that we tied up and threw into the fire?" They confirm, "Certainly, your majesty." The king exclaims, "Look! I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods." Inside the scorching furnace where no human could survive for a second, 4 figures are seen walking calmly amidst the flames. The ropes have been burned away, but the men themselves are completely untouched. The king, awestruck, approaches the opening of the furnace. "Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, servants of the Most High God," he calls out, "Come out, come here." And so they do. They walk out of the furnace in front of the king and his entire court. A hush falls over the crowd as they gather around the 3 men. They examine them closely. Not a hair on their heads is singed. Their clothes are not scorched. There isn't even the smell of smoke on them. They defied the fire, and the fire had no power over them. In that moment, Nebuchadnezzar's pride shatters, replaced by profound reverence. He declares, "Praise be to the God of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He has sent his angel and rescued his servants." They trusted in him and defied the king's command, willing to give up their lives rather than serve or worship any god except their own. The king then issues a new decree. Anyone who speaks against the God of these men will be punished severely, for no other god can save in this way. And what happened to our three heroes? The king promoted them to even higher positions in the province of Babylon. Their story of faith in the face of fire became a legend, a testament to the power of conviction and the God who delivers. Thanks for watching this incredible story with me today. If you were inspired, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of courage and faith. See you next time. Though the fig tree does not bud and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord, I will be joyful in God my Savior. The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights. Have you ever felt like the world was against you, just for doing the right thing? Today, we're diving into an epic story from ancient Persia, a tale of faith, jealousy, and incredible courage. This is the story of Daniel in the lion's den. In the mighty Persian Empire, under the rule of King Darius, there was a man named Daniel. He wasn't just any official. He was brilliant, trustworthy, and so exceptional that the king planned to put him in charge of the entire kingdom. Daniel's integrity was flawless, and his devotion to his God was unwavering. But his success didn't win him friends in high places. Instead, it bred a dangerous jealousy among the other satraps and administrators. They watched him, searching for any flaw, any mistake they could use against him, but they found nothing. Daniel was simply too good at his job and too dedicated in his faith. Frustrated, these officials realized they couldn't attack his character or his work. So, they decided to weaponize his faith. They hatched a wicked plan. They went to King Darius with a flattering proposal. "Oh, King Darius, live forever! We've all agreed that you should issue a royal decree. For the next 30 days, anyone who prays to any god or human being other than you, O king, shall be thrown into the den of lions." They presented it as a way to unify the kingdom and solidify the king's authority. Flattered by this show of loyalty, King Darius signed the decree, making it an unchangeable law of the Medes and Persians. He had no idea it was a trap. Now Daniel knew about the decree. He knew the terrifying penalty. But what was he to do? Abandon his lifelong devotion to God? Hide his faith? For Daniel, that was never an option. So, just as he had always done, he went to his upstairs room, opened the windows that faced Jerusalem, and got down on his knees to pray. He prayed 3 times that day, giving thanks to his God just as he always did. It wasn't an act of defiance against the king, but an act of faithfulness to his Creator. Of course, his enemies were watching. They caught him in the act and rushed to the king, their voices dripping with false outrage. "Daniel," they announced, "is ignoring your decree." King Darius was heartbroken. He realized he had been tricked, his affection for Daniel used against him. He spent the entire day trying to find a loophole, a way to save his trusted friend, but the law was absolute. The king said to him, "May your God, whom you serve so continually, rescue you?" Then Daniel was cast into the den, and a large stone was rolled over the entrance, sealed with the king's own signet ring. The deed was done. There was no turning back. That night, King Darius couldn't sleep. He refused food and entertainment, his mind consumed with worry for Daniel. As soon as the sun began to rise, he hurried to the lion's den. His voice was filled with anguish as he called out, "Daniel, servant of the living God! Has your God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?" He waited, his heart pounding in the silent dawn. Then a voice came from the den. "It was Daniel, O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me because I was found innocent in his sight. Nor have I ever done any wrong before you, O king." The king was overjoyed. He ordered Daniel to be lifted out of the den immediately. When Daniel was brought out, there wasn't a single scratch on him, because he had trusted in his God. But the story doesn't end there. The king's relief quickly turned to justice. He commanded that the men who had maliciously accused Daniel, along with their entire families, be brought and thrown into the very same lion's den. Before they even reached the floor, the lions overpowered them, a grim testament to the fate they had planned for an innocent man. Following this incredible event, King Darius issued a new decree to every corner of his vast empire. He declared that everyone must fear and revere the God of Daniel. He wrote, "For he is the living God and he endures forever. His kingdom will not be destroyed, his dominion will never end. He rescues and he saves. He performs signs and wonders in the heavens and on the earth." Daniel's unwavering faith had not only saved his own life, but had also revealed the power of his God to an entire nation. He continued to prosper, a shining example of how integrity and faith can triumph over jealousy and evil. What an incredible story of courage in the face of impossible odds. It reminds us that holding on to our beliefs, even when it's difficult, can lead to incredible outcomes. Thanks so much for watching with us today. If this story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of faith and courage. We'll see you in the next video.